afternoon, all the speakers and participants and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. This afternoon, we will have a discussion on the communication ethics. And we have here Dr. Jantima Kheokao from Thailand and Dr. Bahtiar Mohamad from Malaysia and me myself from Indonesia. And we will share our thoughts on communication ethics with different perspectives of ethics. Dr. Jantima will share on the public opinion and Dr. Bahtiar in corporate communication, and I will be on digital communications. But just before we start, I would like to ask you to follow the rule of the seminar. You will ask to mute your microphone during the presentation. And if you're willing to open your webcam, it's okay, but please behave properly. And if you have any questions, you can write down in the chat room, and I will read it in the Q&A session. Okay, there won't be no MC, no moderator. I will be the host as well as one of the presenters here. So it's kind of a semi-formal or casual discussion in order to have a deeper discussion on the communication ethics. So when the Q&A session, please feel free to ask and join the discussion to elaborate the communication ethics. To start the seminar, I would like to invite the Dean of Faculty of Business Administration and Communication Sciences. Dr. Eko Widodo, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Bu Dorien, for the time. Is the first, thank you for Professor Dr. Jantima from School of Communication Art, University of the Thai Chamber of Commerce, Thailand. And also the second speaker is Professor Dr. Bahtiar Mohamad from University Utara Malaysia in Malaysia. Good afternoon and thank you, Prof. Bahtiar. And also Bu Dorien from Indonesia as the third speaker. And I think it's not only the participant, it's not only from Indonesia, but also from Thailand, from Malaysia, from Philippines, I recognize, and also the participant from Indonesia is wider also, not only from Jakarta, from Kupang is already here, and from many places. So I think with the more than 100 participants in this discussion, it will be interesting. Actually, today we witnessing the extraordinary problem in communication, especially in about the hoax. Yeah. As you know, Prof. Jantima and Prof. Bahtiar, Indonesia yesterday is gets general local general election. So in this local general election, usually many hooks, many the communication, the wrong communication is happen. Also in the pandemic, also the communication is important because as you know, since the beginning of the pandemic, is many conspiracy theory is in this country, in the world. So it makes the manage of the pandemic is still a little bit difficult because many hope, many the wrong information is around us. So as you know, that communication is not just hard issue, but the soft issue is more important. Technology, as you know, is very neutral, and if the technology comes to the wrong people, so it's become dangerous. So communication and technology should be ethic, because communication and technology is for the humans, not for the technology itself. So thank you for Prof. Jantima from Thailand and Prof. Bahtiar from Malaysia to join in this webinar, and thank you for the participant for all around the Southeast Asia and watch this webinar together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kheokao, for your opening speech. Now we come to the main of this seminar, actually. Well, colleagues, we know that the flow of the information nowadays can be analogy as a flood. When the interpersonal, organizational, and group then facilitated by media, especially digital media and social media, we have difficulties in recognizing the true information. There is also level of ethics in each level of communications. However, it also can be simultaneously come up together in one case. Ethics as a right or wrong guidance plays significant roles in how people respect themselves and others when producing and disseminating information. The basic principles that teams unfollow nowadays, which cause many problems arising, we know that. And based on the situation, bring back the awareness of ethics in communication become important. That's why we hold this webinar. And first of all, I would like also to remind as a refresher, yeah, what is ethic and ethics with S? What is the difference between ethic and ethics? Ethic is a system of accepted beliefs that control behavior, especially such as a system based on moral. That's why we use ethic as our title of our topic in this webinar, because it's belief that control behavior. And the system is, as I mentioned earlier, in public opinion and corporate communication and digital communication, while ethics with S is the study of what is morally right and what is not. So it concludes the ethic in the ethics. Hopefully it's not confusing. Okay, we will start with the presentation of Dr. Jantima. Before she presents her paper, I would like to introduce you that Dr. Jantima Kheokao is Associate Professor and Chair of the Department Communication Arts Program and Marketing Communications at the School of Communication Arts University of the Thai Chamber of Commerce. She received her PhD in Communication from the University of Philippines and other degrees in the fields of political science, law, library, and information sciences, as well as a certificate in marketing and branding from New York University. Her research interests include public relations, branding, marketing communications, e-health literacy, health information. At present, she is actively involved in public opinion research, where she serves as president of the ASEAN Network for Public Opinion Research, called ANPOR, and also co-editor of the Scopus Journal, Asia Journal for Public Opinion Research. So that's all about Prof. Jantima. Now I will give the time to Prof. Jantima to deliver your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone's. First of all, I would like to thank the Atmaya University for inviting me to this session. It's my honor to have a chance to share with you. Yes, I will take my time to discuss about ethics in public opinion research and practice, as I was given this topic because maybe I am actively involved in public opinion research. That's why you asked me to discuss about this. My topics will include the important ethical issue I will address about that. Actually, I just compliment what Dr. Dorien just mentioned, and to take you to have a brief understanding of the public opinion research and its role, the role of the public opinion researcher, and share a little about what shall we do and we shall not do. And later, I hope that we can share a talk or Q&A. Okay, so as Dr. Dorien just briefly put it, what is ethics? Yes, we heard about this because it's rooted in ancient Greek philosophy. It's about moral life. It refers to a system of principles which can critically change previous consideration about choice and actions. It is branch of philosophy which deal with the dynamic of decision making concerning what is right and wrong. Scientific research work, as all human activity, is governed by individual communities and social values. Research ethics involve requirements on daily work, protection of dignity of subject, and the publication of the information in the research. So we will see in a broader view because ethics is a human's concerns globally, locally, at the level of individual and at the level of society, organization, and as well as individual. Some scholars explain about the level of ethics that's involved in our behavior. We have 3 levels: micro levels, meso level. Please move the light, please. And macro levels. It means at the personal level, it's human values, including their preferable modes of behaviors and outcomes, would affect their views on how and what should be achieved through his and her behaviors. At the meso level, it's a professional level. Judgments could be affected by what guides their values in terms of what is seen as being accepted by the organizations and the professions they are in. And a macro level, at the societal environmental level, one's personal network, including families, friends, and community, would affect the extent to which practice and considers ethical or unethical. And such predispositions could be reinforced over time. In particular, country-specific factors, including changing political, economics, and socio-cultural conditions, could influence the way people practice Based on that assumptions, I have a graphic slide, the next slide, please, to show you what people think about our ethical level, ethics behavior. Based on these three level assumptions, we believe that individual's value system is made up of the personal value, professional values, and environmental values. At the same time, personal factors including education, political system, and social-cultural system, economic system, exist that there are external factors which could affect the values. If we are in the democratic country, if we are in the socialist country, it affects the way we behave. If we are in different religious belief, which we all accept that all are for good of the people, but the very detail in practice may differ. So the Muslim people have some certain practice, the Christian, the Buddhist, and or whatsoever. There could be variation from individual to another, as individual emphasize value from one level more than another. So that is to give you briefly why we have the ethical difference perspective from country to country and from profession to profession, and also to do the research. Even though that all the research share ethical practice, but in some certain area of research, the ethical issue may be takes more serious, like medicines, nursing, but also ethics are very important. So that is how we do it, right things, wrong things, and what should we take into consideration before we pick our choice. Okay, so that is briefly, and we are all agree that ethics is very important for human society. We may behave not so right, but if we try to have something very right and try to abide with it, it will make our society, human society, at peace. Okay, and the next thing that I would like to share is that because my assignment is to talk about the public opinion research ethics, which is similar to others research area. What is the public opinion research? Public opinion research is also a branch of research, which is the planned one-way systematic collection of opinion-based information from the public, private, individuals, and representative of business or other entities. Public opinion research use quantitative and qualitative methods also. And we use several techniques to provide insight and support decision-making. Some collection techniques that uses online research panel, virtual or in-person focus group or mini groups, in-depth or intercept interview, telephones, mail, online, or electronic surveys. And the surveys that use other means, it means we use everything that can be used. So which mix of this, so there are considerations to think about the ethical issue also. Public opinion research activities, like others, we include designing, testing the method to collect data collection itself, including sampling, data entry, coding, primary data analysis, and convening and managing online content. Some of you may think about, is public opinion research the same as public opinion poll? I can give you an idea. Please move the slide, please. In public opinion is the critical focus. This is taken from the World Association for Public Opinion Research. To give you a little idea, what is public opinion poll and what is public opinion research? Some may think that is two sides of the coin. Yeah. Public opinion is the critical force in shaping and transforming society. Public opinion poll and survey are regularly conducted in many countries to measure not only support for political parties and candidates, but also public opinion on a wide range of social and political issues. The results are published frequently in the print, online, and broadcast media. So the keyword, there are two keywords: public opinion poll and public opinion research. As I said, you may think that is two sides of the coin. In public opinion research, we study about people's attitude, belief, and behavior. If you are familiar with a public opinion poll or the poll itself, people may think or know more on political poll because the political parties always conduct political poll to determine their favorite, their directions, what will they move. So most of you are familiar with the poll in politics, economics, and some certain critical issue. You may, is it public hearing? It's not public hearing. As when you, the government will conduct or will establish some project, mega project, it is required to study people opinions, which they term public hearing is compulsory before they pass the project into making. Yes, so that is the difference in doing public opinions poll. The pollster also use scientific method, because in doing a public opinion poll with strictly scientific method, we can guarantee the ethical poll is mean the right, not the wrong or the mislead idea to the people. Because the pollster have the responsibility to deliver the public the information required to ensure transparent and unbiased reporting of the result, supported by the comprehensive documentation. So that is the public opinion poll. So it's quite overlap, more or less. But in terms of public opinion research, we tend to do more. We take the position of the researcher, not the marketer or the poster. What is the significance of the public opinion. And it means that the significance of the ethical that the public opinion research need to practice. Public opinion research support legislation, regulations, or litigations, support governments or departmental priorities, address the developments of new government policies, program, service, or initiative, touch on issues that are of high public interest or sensitivities, or related to any other important or high-risk issue. That is how the public opinion researcher must be aware that the impact of their result will be the significant to the well-being of the many of all concerned. Okay. And what is the methodology? What are the methodology? As I told earlier that public opinion research can be quantitative and qualitative. This is the example that we are doing in accepting the submission to our journal. As Dr. Dorien just mentioned that we have Asian Journal for Public Opinion Research, which is we supposed to represent the Asians' views, Asian concerns, Asian issue, and we publish for next issue is our 9th years in existence. So in quantitative method, what do we use? We use traditional survey research, which is more on public opinion measurement. We also do the survey experiment, survey improvement research, survey experiment to better understand public opinions, field studies, research on survey research and public opinion methods, like we do the sampling, survey mode, that we are concerned about the methodology. It means that not only the result. For public opinion researcher, we are concerned on the methodological side also. So the researcher who are involved in public opinion research also find a way to do the right measure to study the people mind. Also, we have the qualitative method, because not only surveys is public opinion research. If we use qualitative interviews, focus group, ethnographies, like local public opinion development, photo voice, community-based participatory study. The qualitative method in public opinion research are very popular among Indonesian scholars who are into public opinion research. Before, there are two perspectives. Among the quantitative researchers, they thought that qualitative method cannot be used in public opinion research, which is not true. We can use it. And if you are interested on how photo voice, how ethnography were used in public opinion research, you can look into the archive of our journal, ajpor.org. Yes. And coming to the discipline, what is the public opinions? Public opinion can be from communications. It's not because that we are all here, majority of us are from communications. A lot also deal with political science as public opinion polls. You may heard about it. We have Gallup, and we have Gallup in everywhere. And many of the marketing research firms also are doing studying people opinions, people choice, people buying behavior, or sort of thing. It can be sociology, psychology, public health, which is very important when it comes to making decisions concern the safety or the health of the society, the people. You have to be very, very careful. Like what we are doing right now, a lot on public opinions on COVID. If you look into the academic journal, there are a lot, and also the polls company, a lot of public opinion concerning COVID-19. The result like the flood of the water. Policy study is also covered in by public opinion researcher, criminal justice, law, legal, marketing, nursing, medicine. We even have the dentistry also. So it is safe to say that all subjects can be discipline for, can be the problem for public opinion researcher to study, because we are human, and human is not one certain thing, is a complex thing. We have demographic, we have psychographic, we have sociographic, so that's all become human. And to talk about what should we do or what should we not do, we call it an ethical dilemma. When it comes to think what is right or wrong, ethical dilemma, we describe a conflict between two morally correct course of action. There is a conflict between values of principle. The dilemma is that you would be doing something right and wrong at the same time, and by taking one right course, you will negate the other right course. There is a right and wrong choice in any ethical dilemmas. You must decide between doing the right things and wrong things. Someone or something could be hurt. In an ethical dilemma, someone or something could be harmed if the wrong decision is made. And they often deal with also what is legal. So I could share with you some major ethical issues in conducting research, which is more or less also in other field of research too. What we think about first is the informed consent. When we conduct a research, especially to study people idea, people belief, people behavior, informed consent is mean that persons knowingly, voluntarily, and intelligently, and in clear and manifest way give his consent. This is very important because you cannot get information especially if your subject is human. If the person do not give consent to you, you cannot use the data. It is ethical. You cannot force, you cannot steal, you cannot observe and take the information and report. The second common ethical issue is beneficence do not harm. Beneficence is be of benefit, do not harm. That is the short meaning. The principle of beneficence includes the professional mandate to do effective and significant research so as to better serve and promote the welfare of our constituents. Beneficence relates to the benefit of the research, while another contrary word, non-maleficence relates to the potential risk of participation. Non-maleficence requires a high level of sensitivity from the researcher about what constitutes harm, which can be discomfort, and harm can be psychological, emotional, social, and economics in nature. When researchers try to learn intimate detail of the participant's life, he has to deal with opening own wound. So the type, the degree, the number of potential risks must be assessed, as well as the subject value system, which ranks various times. Next, ethical issue is respect for anonymity and confidentiality. The issue of confidentiality and anonymity is closely connected with the rights of beneficence, respect for the dignity and fidelity. Anonymity is protected when the subject's identity cannot be linked with personal response. If the researcher is not able to promise anonymity, he has to address confidentiality, which is the management of private information by the researcher in order to protect the subject identity. The researcher must always bear in mind all psychological and social implications that a breach of confidentiality may have on subjects. In order to protect participants, they have to inform them on their rights and use all possible coding systems that they regard appropriate in each other's. Respect for privacy. Respect for privacy is also important. Privacy is the freedom an individual has to determine the times, extent, and general circumstances under which private information will be shared with or withheld from others. An invasion of privacy happens when private information such as belief, attitudes, opinions, and record is shared with others without the subject's knowledge or consent. A researcher cannot decide on behalf of other person on this delicate issue. All aims, instruments, and methodology must be discussed with the prospective subject and the research worker prior to investigations. The vulnerable group of people is another ethical issue that the researcher have to take into consideration. Nowadays, there is an increased concern about vulnerable groups and whether it is ethical or not for them to be used as research subjects. Vulnerability is one characteristic of people unable to protect their own rights and welfare. So these groups include captive populations like prisoners, institutionalized students, etc., mentally ill persons, elderly people, children, critically ill or dying, or with learning disability, sedated or unconscious. If we have to deal with this kind of people, we have to be very, very careful in design our study. Skill of the researcher is also another important factor. In research, there are three important elements: the competency of the researcher, the careful design, and worthwhile expected outcome. Researchers should have the necessary skills and knowledge for the specific investigation to be carried out and be aware of the limits of personal competence in research. Any lack of knowledge in area under research must be clearly stated. Inexperienced researchers should work under qualified supervision, which has to be reviewed by an ethical committee. What is more, careful choice of methods for data collections to ensure validity and reliability are two main requirements that must be met in all kinds of research. Choice depends on the object of the study. When human beings are involved, all the ethical issues discussed above must be taken into consideration. So there is another, that is the major concern. There are still some more ethical issues like honesty and integrity. You have to respect your research honestly, and that apply to your methods also. Respect for intellectual property. Never plagiarize. This is very important. Plagiarism. Don't copy others people's work or try to pass it off as your own. Ask for permission before using other people's tool or method. Unpublished data or results. You need to respect also copyrights and patents together with other forms of intellectual property and always acknowledge contribution to your research. If in doubt, acknowledge. Avoid any risk of plagiarism. Legality is also another. We have to be aware of laws and regulations that cover your works and be sure that you conform to them. Responsible publication. When time comes to publish your papers or your result, you should publish to advance the state of research and knowledge, not just to advance your career. This means in essence that you should not publish anything that is not new or that duplicates someone else's work. Carefulness is also another ethical issue. You have to be very, very careful. Take care in carrying out your research to avoid careless mistakes. Also review your work carefully and critically to ensure that your results are credible. it is also important to keep full records of your research. If you are asked to act as peer reviewer, you should take the time to do the job effectively and fully. All of this, you can be certain that your ethical issue that I just highlight, you will not make some mistakes in one of them. The ethics committee is very important when you are doing the research, especially when you study the people. My belief, most universities have an ethics committee. This is required to scrutinize all research proposals to ensure that they do not raise any ethical issue. That is do and don't that you can think. And if you have some concern which I did not mention, we can discuss after we hear two speakers. Thank you for listening to my view.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jantima. It was such a comprehensive presentations. Like she start defining ethics, and then narrow into public opinion research, and especially in the methodology and the issues that usually come up in research regarding to the ethics. Yeah, and now we will have presentation from Dr. Bahtiar Mohamad. I would like to introduce him first. Dr. Bahtiar Mohamad is an associate professor of corporate communication and strategy at Communication Department, School of Multimedia Technology and Communication, University Utara Malaysia. So it's UUM. With a degree of National University of Malaysia, a Master of Science from University Putra Malaysia, and a PhD from Brunei University London, United Kingdom. And he has been serving University Utara Malaysia for approximately 18 years. It's quite long, yeah. Formerly, he served as a head of communication department. So it's my counterpart, Faculty of Communication and Modern Languages, UUM, for 3 years from 2005 to 2008. From 2015 to 2016, he was practitioner coordinator in the College of Arts and Sciences. Yeah, Arts and Sciences. And between 2017 and 2018, he was a postgraduate coordinator at School of Multimedia Technology and Communication. In January to December 2019, he was appointed as Dean for Student Development and Alumni for the College of Arts and Science, UUM. He currently serves as research head for Advanced Communication Research Unit, and he also teaches public relations, corporate communications, communication for managers, and organizational image management, which are combined to support his hybrid profession, linking communication with the management. He is carrying out research and publication in the area of corporate identity, corporate image, crisis communications, and corporate branding for the point of view of public relations and corporate communication. Dr. Bahtiar has published over 100 research papers in reputed journals and conferences, and has authored and co-authored and edited 8 textbooks. So many achievements. He is a member of Institute of Public Relations Malaysia, European Communication Research and Education Associations, World Communication Association, and Pacific and Asia Communication Associations. And he was appointed as a visiting scholar at Faculty of Business, Curtin University, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, and Asia Institute of Cambodia. And also the academic advisor for University Sultan Zainal Abidin, Segi University, College University Polytechnic Mara, and College University Islam Malacca. That was the short view of Bahtiar, of Dr. Bahtiar Mohamad. So you can imagine the long view. And if I would like to invite Dr. Bahtiar Mohamad to present his paper. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dorien, for the introduction. So my paper is a short paper. It is a short presentation on corporate communication, image, reputation, and ethics. So understanding integration. So how the corporate communication, image, reputation works with ethics. So we want to know that. Is why from the beginning I tried to set the parameter of my discussion within the context of corporate communication. So ethics can be discussed at many levels, at business level, at like what Dr. Jantima talked about, the research perspective. So for this presentation, I will look into the context of corporate communication, how the ethics works on within this variable, within this construct. So before we understand the ethics, we need to understand the context of the study. What is a corporate communication? The corporate communication, known as a corporate public relation. So we understand that the corporate communication rooted from the public relation previously. Okay, then and was responsible of the public relation department of the organization. So that is what the beginning, the early history of the corporate communication. So when we talk about the public relation, which is the root of the corporate communication, public relation basically is rooted from the journalism. So I think that from the history of public relation, when the business start doing well that time, so the company or the corporate company need people to write for the company. That's why they hire a good journalism from the industry to become the in-house journalist for them to write a good image or good news for the company. So then when the business growing, so the element of business involved, so the journalism has a problem to articulate the business terms. That's why after a few years, the issue of journalism cannot articulate all the business terms. Then the business schools start to take over the corporate communication domain. So most of the corporate communication domain now discussed at the business school level, not in under communication or PR department anymore. So that is the basic story of the corporate communication. So that's why if you want to work as a corporate communication, you need to know the basic setting of business. So the knowledge about business is very important, to know about the marketing, finance, human resource, and also the administration, business admin, and so on. So the research on corporate communication expanded dramatically in the early 21st century and covered various issues across multidisciplinary issues. So what we can say that corporate communication is a combination of multidisciplinary knowledge from sociology, psychology, from human resource, finance, economic, and so on. So that's why most of the corporate communication practitioners now at the corporate company lead by the people with the basic of business business knowledge. So that is what happening now. So the typology of the corporate communication, there are two types of corporate communication that we communicate. Internal communication that our public or in corporate communication we call stakeholder. Our stakeholder, for the internal stakeholder, is our employee, our staff, maybe our CEO, our board of director. All this internal communication. The internal communication is very important for the big company. And external communication is to public, to the other stakeholder, customer, government agency, reporter, or maybe the community around the company. So in organization, internal and external communication determines the effectiveness of corporate communication. So the corporate communication is how we communicate effectively, or how effective that we communicate all the communication issues of the company to our stakeholder, either internal or external stakeholder. So internal communication as a transaction between individual and group at the various level in the organization, at the at the low level or managerial level, or at the top management level. So that all is under the internal communication. So internal communication is widely discussed under the heading of employee communication. Basically, in other terms, in organizational communication, as for example, they discuss all these internal communication under the employee communication. So organizational communication and also business communication. But in corporate communication, all is under the internal communication. So then I try to look at, to try to mapping the element, or what is the element of corporate communication in the research setting, in the research activities. This is a bibliometric analysis from the data from the Scopus. So the journal Scopus published many articles on corporate communication. So what is a topic covered by the corporate communication domain from the Scopus Index Journal? So the data here shows that the corporate communication covers something that a multidisciplinary issues. It's not just the communication issues, but also marketing. If you look at the marketing, they have an issue of reputation and corporate branding, advertising, and positioning. And at management focus, they talk about the corporate image, strategic management, and also a bit on marketing management. And corporate communication also discussed under the information technology domain, talk about the information dissemination, World Wide Web, new media in corporate communication, PR online, for example, so telecommunication system. So all this is under the information technology domain. So I can cluster to 5 main cluster, the related issues on corporate communication on research domain. And also the communication and media. So many research talk about the internal communication and social networking and so on, and corporate governance and corporate social responsibility under the government relation. So this is just a snapshot to understand that what elements or what construct covered under the corporate communication. So it's a multidisciplinary issues that involve marketing, management, IT, government relation, communication and media, and so on. So now comes to the integration. How we want to know that what is the relationship between corporate communication and corporate image and reputation. As I mentioned earlier, that my parameter of discussion will be focused on these four main variable: corporate communication, corporate image, corporate reputation, and also ethics. Okay, for the corporate communication, basically, we communicate all the information about the company to our public, to our stakeholder, either internal stakeholder or external stakeholder. We have two type of group. which is that each group, they have different style of communication strategy, and also the communication content also will be different, depend on the group of the stakeholder. So based on the model of how we communicate, how the corporate communication communicate to the public, to the stakeholder, basically the company will be based on the corporate mission. If the mission of the company to create something to show that the company is a strong company, then the corporate mission is the first thing that we need to understand. Then from the corporate mission, we try to behave, to create the identity of the company based on our mission. So the nature of the business is different from one to another. For the oil and gas industry, for example, they have a different mission. For the NGO, for example, they have a different mission. University, they have a different mission. So what the corporate communication can do, we will try to work with the corporate mission of the company and come up with the corporate identity. So I give you an example. For example, for the university. So what we want to create, the identity of the university, there should be a good ranking in QS or THE. We have a good professor, for example. Our student, our program is market driven. Our GE, graduate employability, is very high. That is what we want to, the identity, that related to our university. So this is a job of corporate commission to communicate all this identity to the external public and also to the internal public. So by having a good corporate identity, then they will create the image of the university. And the good image of university, for the long term, they will create a reputation. So the reputation will take a long time. But in the corporate communication process, we start with the corporate mission. We try to come up with the good identity of the company based on the mission, and to project through the corporate communication activities to the external public to create a good image. And with the good image, for the long term, they will create a good reputation. That is an integration between corporate communication activities, corporate image, corporate reputation, and also the identity, and also the ethics. So to have a good identity, the ethics will be part of that process. The process to communicate all the identity of the company must be with the good ethics. So let's say the corporate behavior. So if you want to show to the people that you are the good company, the good organization, so the ethical standard is one of the element. Okay, that if you have a problem with the ethical standard and so on, they will create a crisis. They will create something bad image and the bad reputation at the end. So if you look at the integration in the corporate communication process, the ethics we start to put in, to embed with our mission, and also we will work along the process of creating the good identity of the company, and also in the process of disseminating the information to the internal or the external public. So the ethic will be involved along the process. So that's what I try to make all the participants understand, that where the ethics will be part of this. Okay, the element of ethic will be from the creating the good identity, and also in the process of disseminating the identity to the public through the corporate communication activities. Okay, after we have all these things, then we try to communicate through the corporate communication identity. So the corporate communication identity, corporate communication activities involve many discipline, many area of many departments in the organization. So this is a table, the figure that I come out from this figure from my research, my previous research on corporate communication. So from the literature and also from the interview and from the survey, so I come up with this model, which is that corporate communication involve to other discipline as well. For example, and also redundant with other departments. The media relation and public relation is clearly under the corporate communication. It's a subset to corporate communication. It's clearly put under the corporate communication. But the corporate communication activity is also sometimes redundant with other departments. For example, investor relation. When you want to communicate to investor, so you will communicate all the financial data, financial document. So the data will come from the finance department, but the process of dissemination from the corporate communication. That's why we have a term investor relation office. Okay. Then employee relation is redundant with the human resource department. Human resource will involve with the recruiting, training, and so on. But when it comes to the engagement, change management, they will the corporate communication activity will take part, to that activities. In marketing, of course, marketing, the corporate communication will involve in corporate market advertising, corporate branding, and also corporate promotion. So the corporate communication will be part of that marketing communication department. Now they have a new term they call IMC, Integrated Marketing Communication. They have so many terms that relate communication and marketing. And at the corporate level, for the big company, the corporate level is involved the regulation, law, and also public admin, the government relation. So in that case, they have one section under corporate communication we call public affair. So this public affair will involve all the government relation activities and also the public organizational activities. So after you understand all this, the domain or the sub-domain of the corporate communication or activities of corporate communication, so the corporate communication role is to communicate to many stakeholders. So the ethical standard is a must along the process. So so this is a very important to embed or to practice the corporate the ethical standard during the process of dissemination of information. And for the corporate communication, we rely on two code of ethics. The first one, the PRSA code of ethics. This one is a public relation code of ethics. Every public relation association in the world, they will follow the ethical standard. PRC America, they have one. In Indonesia, they have Perhumas. Perhumas also has their own ethical standard, which is that quite similar to the PRSA. In Malaysia, we have IPRM, Institute of Public Relations Malaysia. Also, we have our own code of ethics, which is that based on the PRSA as well. So this is a code of ethics try to control the ethical standard of the practitioner, the PR practitioner, and also the corporate communicators during the process of communicating the information to the public through the corporate communication activities. So you can see from here, the PRC Code of Ethics shares values that guide behavior and decision-making of public relation practitioner and individual acting in public relation or crisis communication. The code focuses on the 6 values: advocacy, acting as responsible advocates for those we represent and providing a voice in the marketplace of ideas. Honesty, adhering the highest standard of accuracy and truth. So when we communicate to the public, we try to communicate with the accurate data, information, and so on. Expertise, acquiring the responsibly using specialized knowledge and expertise, advancing the profession and building mutual understanding among a wide array of institutions and audience. Independence, providing objective counsel to those we represent and being accountable for our action. Loyalty, being faithful to those we represent while honoring on obligation to serve the public interest. Then fairness, dealing fairly with client, employers, competitors, peers, vendor, media, and the public, respecting all opinion and supporting free expression. So this is the core, the code focus on the SIG value. This based on the value, but the code of ethic for PR, they have a list. If I'm not mistaken, they have IPRM with 24, if I'm not mistaken, 24 code of ethic. We need to follow. All the members of IPRM need to follow that code of standard. So other than PR code of ethic, corporate communication also follow the IABC code of ethic. Okay, International Association of Business Communication, they come out with their own code of ethic when they're dealing with the stakeholder, with the internal stakeholder or the external stakeholder. So they have IABC listed 11 code of ethic to follow by their members. So I am honest, my action bring respect for and trust in the communication profession. I communicate accurate information and promptly correct any error. So you know that as a corporate communicators and also PR practitioner, you dealing with the people, with the internal stakeholder and external stakeholder. So every time we communicate with them, we need to communicate a correct, promptly and correct any error. So that's very important. I obey law and public policy. I protect confidential information. I support the ideal of free speech. So this is the element of the code of ethic within the corporate communication. So as I mentioned before, the corporate communicators basically based on the code of ethic of PR and IABC code of ethic. So this is what I trying to limit the discussion. So the biggest ethical scandal. So I think that when you are not following the ethical standard of the communication and also the business ethic, so they will create a scandal. That the scandal will create a bad image and also the bad reputation at the end. So I bring one issue, the biggest ethical scandal. This is a Volkswagen. They call that Dieselgate, or maybe some report talk about the emission gate in 2015, which is that Volkswagen, they have a moral value, which is that they try to make the different emission reading machine for the emission reading. So the understanding the cause of unethical practice can avoid large-scale scandal. So you know that because of the unethical behavior of Volkswagen in 2015, this company need to pay 4.3 billion penalty by the American government. So you can see that the unethical behavior is not just make you lost a lot of money, but also they will affect the image of Volkswagen. So Volkswagen has a bad image in America, and also for the long term, the company also will get the bad reputation from the people, from the public, from the consumer. So this is what we call the ethical standard is very important, not just for the sake of survival of the company, but for the long term is very important. And the second one, the biggest ethical scandal in late 2000, I think. I think you remember that about the Enron. Enron is about the accounting fraud, which is that they try to fabrication of the accounting data to show that they get more, they show the more profit, but in reality they have no profit. So Enron is another scandal, a bigger scandal, ethical scandal, unethical reporting. This is about the investor relation reporting information. So their report on they try to distribute the accounting report to their investor by fabricating the numbers, the profit of the company. So this is a two main biggest ethical scandal that affect the image and also the reputation of these two companies. Even the Enron is is going bankrupt after that. Volkswagen still survive, but they need to pay a lot of money for the penalty and so on, and the cost, and also the bad image. It's very important to maintain the image. If you want to build a new image, it's take a long time to get that. So that is the things that I want to share with you. The study about the corporate communication is about what I can summarize from this presentation is corporate communication is a process of dissemination, disseminating the good identity of the company. By doing that, the ethical standard must be there. So that is what then they will affect to image and also will affect the reputation for the long term. So that's all. Then I back to Dr. Dorien for the next session.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bahtiar Mohamad. Dr. Bahtiar start with the definition and meaning of the corporate communication and also the map where it's the position of the corporate communication among the communication studies, and he also developed a map on the research on the corporate communication itself, then narrow to the ethical issue in corporate communication. I will present my paper on the digital communication. I am Dorien Kartikawangi. I have to introduce myself, right? I'm an associate professor in organizational communication in this School of Communication, Atma Jaya Catholic University of Indonesia. Allow me to share my presentation. Okay, so as an introduction, I would like to mention early thought of Manuel Castells and Jan van Dijk. Yeah, my presentation is on digital communication ethics. These two scientists has a different view of the society or network society. Manuel Castells said that networks already are in the main units of modern society, and networks are per se. There is no opposition inside networks. We have created a machine which is dynamic, full of opportunities, but is controlled by no one. So it's kind of a technological determinism. While Van Dijk, individuals as a Western society or collectivists as Eastern society are the units of modern society, increasingly linked by networks. So the difference is that Van Dijk said we already exist, and the networks help us to link. Network structure has internal oppositions. They are created and can also be changed by humans. So the difference is Castells' perspective is in technological determinism, while Van Dijk's in structuration theory. It's we won't talk about this debate actually, but by understanding the differences, we can now see how digital plays significant role in these communications, and then arising the ethics issues. So the speed of digital networks is so high that international and local governments, organizations, and individuals cannot cope with them. For example, economy, largely of stock and currency markets, politics, drifting voters and mood via social media, as we know, social relationship, lists of friends updated every day. I don't know, you are in a competition to have a higher friends, or you just keep it modest as the friends that really know you and you know them. It depends on us. Cultural, rumors via WhatsApp, flash mob via Facebook, and everything. It's happened all over the world. So while networks are equipped to flexible adapt to the environment, they also make systems unstable. So there is solution or not, we can see later on. But better network management of all kind of, by government, organization, and individuals will be a way to develop a solution to this problem. So there is the legal and ethical foundations. Like we know that the ethics usually come up with legal. Legal also based on the rules that apply by the governments. But from the society itself, sometimes when rules not works, then we come to ethics. And as what Prof. Jantima and Prof. Bahtiar explained earlier, there is a scope, there is a context where ethics become an issue. But unfortunately, for the digital communication as the umbrella where or as a melting pot where individual or interpersonal communication groups, organization, as well as community and government in this digital, it make it more complicated. There is a core values and ethics that already explained by Prof. Jantima and Prof. Bahtiar. And I will narrow my presentation into principles of digital communication ethics. First is the fairness. The use the power of communication with care. Why? Because we are the prosumers, the producer as well as the consumer of the information itself. So we have the power of communication. When we have the power of communication, then we have to be careful and care with ourselves, respect ourselves when we produce an information or we disseminate an information. Respect the users' personalities and opinions. So it's really happen in the social media when we understand and observe that people attack each other in social media without any respect, even though the person is for example, minister or president of countries. We can see that. And the third is responsibility. Assume responsibility for the content of a statement as a communicate. So it's actually the three of these principles goes together, like interrelated. Fairness, respect, and responsibility. We have to responsible and what kind of content that we produce. The content of statement, it's represent the communicators. I will show you the example later on. This is the four others of the principle. The number 4 is moderation. Define clear rules of discourse. So there would be ambiguity in the discourse that we write down in our message or information. Clarity, we have to define rules and guidelines as orientation for the employees of a company. This goes with the presentation of Professor Bahtiar when we talk about corporate communication and we represent the company. So before we represent the company, we have to look back at the guidelines. Is it right or wrong? Allowed by our company or not? Yeah. Because some people get fired when they not follow the guidelines and do such an unethical information disseminations. On transparency, disclose role and communicators and the motivation. So it's talk about what is our role when we produce an information or disseminate it, and what is your motivation. It's clear, and then later on we can see that when we write down email, for example, on behalf of our department, yeah, such as School of Communication, regards, you have to write down your name that disclose the role to Dorien, head of School of Communication. So when we do the transparency, people understand and have a trust. But if not, they don't care who sent the information. It's not transparent. So some must be something that they have. Courtesy, use the right tone. That's the ethical principle. Why we have to use the right tone? Because even though in a writing we have the tone. As an example, I don't know Prof Bahtiar before this webinar. Well, I know him since 2 weeks ago when Mas Andre from the international office introduced me to Prof Bahtiar. I cannot call him Bahtiar when I don't know him. Yeah, so I have to call him properly, and I cannot write down an email to him with a joke or casual words because we don't know each other yet. So it's have to be careful. And about privacy, Prof Jantima explained on privacy clearly. Treat personal matters personally and confidential matters as confidential. If we talk in Indonesian language, when we say, I have a secret information, please do not tell to everybody. Sometimes people accept it as a, please spread out the information. Especially when you have a social disclosure in the social media. So privacy become big issues right now. Okay, so this is the rules of the online code of conduct. As I mentioned earlier, we talk about ethics, not ethics. Yeah, so it's about how the ethics in digital, not the knowledge or the epistemology of the ethics. So when you have a communication via digital, we have to state the objective of the online code of conduct. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, that we have a rule. Yeah, we have rules that everybody have to comply to this rule, especially the online code of conduct. For the addresses, we know that to whom and from whom. Yeah, it's have to be clear. We cannot develop an information or disseminate an information without paying attention on the addresses. Labeling paid content. It's also in public relations area. If you have an information as advertorial, that means you pay the news. Yeah. And some television content, we can see that so much product in one show. Yeah. Is it an advertisement or PR or what? So we have to labeling paid content. And for this compliance with journalistic principles and editorial online communication. Even though online communication newspaper that have a .com or the convergence of the media, it has to be cover both side or multiple side or cross side. Yeah, the terminology is growing now, but the important is that you have to check before you publish. And the fifth is fair and respectful communication on the internet. This really happened right now in social media. There is a buzzer, there is provocators, endorsers, or whatever the name is. But if you want to mention someone, or you want to write down a comment, replying another person's comment, you have to give a respect and fairness. Yeah? We may have a different perspective, we may have an argumentation, but still, yeah, respectful communication is needed. Corporate responsibility for social media presence. This also a bit on public relations, but in public opinion as well. Because social media right now is become not only tools, but social media is the message. It's kind of what Marshall McLuhan said on the computer mediated communication, that the medium is the message. And also shared responsibility of principal and agency. That's some important thing, because if not, then we don't know who are the principal and the agency that responsible for this information. This is the tools, yeah, actually, structures, processes, and instruments that we can use. It's open for public, and it's a book that I refer to. So it's okay if you want to use it as a reference tool. There is processes and instrument, and the description and details help us to do the communication audit on our digital communications. There is internal discourse, training, yeah, workshop training that already mentioned by Prof. Jantima and Prof. Bahtiar earlier. Managing dilemmas before they come into crisis,
ethics council. Yeah, there's a 2 ethic council, and then also panel discussion as well as communication instrument to entrance the company. Well, I will send this to all the participants who stay and give an evaluation to this webinar, of course. So thank you very much. We will come to Q&A. This is me, and this is my avatar. And I'm also Go Digital. So you may contact me anytime. That's all of my presentation. I hope you know additional knowledge, perhaps, or just a reminder. Okay, we come to question and answer. Prof. Bahtiar, please open your camera. There is a question for you already in the chat room, and maybe Prof. Jantima also can add the answer. Okay. So I don't know the name. Maybe you want to ask by yourself. It's a number 934276. Yeah. I have some question, Dr. Bahtiar. How different between corporate identity and corporate brand identity? So it's not about ethics, but it's okay because ethics included in that identity.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dorien. So to answer this question, so yes, because of there are so many terms in corporate communication. We have brand identity, corporate identity, brand image. There's so many things. Sometimes people confuse in terms of the definition concept of each construct. So I can reply like this. Corporate identity is anything about the company. They can be physical, or can be they call that tangible and intangible. Okay, the corporate identity can be tangible, can be intangible. Intangible identity is like behavior of the company, behavior of the employee, which is that we cannot see that behavior, but we can feel that behavior. So if the company have a good employees, maybe when we start communicate with them, we will feel that the company is a very welcome company. They are very nice people working. So that's what we call intangible identity. The second one is a tangible identity. So which is that we can see that through the colors, building, maybe the material. So that is tangible. So identity is quite big scope. Can be tangible, can be intangible. So all these can create the identity, the corporate identity of the company. This identity can represent the company as an image. Okay, that is a corporate identity. So the brand identity is a subset to the corporate identity. So brand identity is a subset. It's a part of the corporate identity. Brand identity, so they have the brand identity is something like how the company want to promote their brand, the corporate brand. So you can see that, the big company, for example, like Petronas, for example. Petronas, they are not selling their product. They are not promote their product, but they promote their corporate brand. Sometimes you can see that Petronas, all the advertisement, everything, they are not show the product, but it shows the company itself, the building, the sponsorship to the F1. So they try to promote the corporate identity of the company. So at the end, with promoting the brand identity, Petronas as a brand, a corporate brand, so it's a good for the company to they can spend a less advertising cost. So if you want to promote your product brand, for example, product brand, so each brand you need to focus on the advertisement. So each of like Procter & Gamble, for example. Procter & Gamble, they have many shampoos, many toiletries products. So each of the product, they have a sub-brand. So every sub-brand, they have a different advertisement. So you need to pay more cost for advertisement. But for the corporate brand, you just promote or advertise as a whole company, the whole organization as a one. So everything, people will remember that, oh, this company is a good company. They have a very good in terms of a strong financial background, and they have a good workers. So that is different between a corporate brand and product brand. So I hope that I can answer this question. What I can say that a corporate brand is a subset to the corporate identity. Brand identity is a subset. So corporate identity is a bigger perspective. So corporate identity, brand identity is a part of that. So that's what I can answer, Dr. Dorien.
Thank you, Dr. Bahtiar. Dr. Jantima, you want to add?
Just a little to maybe to highlight what Dr. Bahtiar has. If we put it simply that corporate identity is the internal activity that shape the perception, whereas the brand identity is how an organization wants to be perceived by its audience. Sometimes what you are and what you want to be seen are different. So there is a discrepancy. So that is a job of the corporate brand department, because what you are and what you want to be like, if it's different, it's a big problem for the corporate branding department. Is that I make it more clearer or not?
Yeah, it's more clearly because you can give an example. I also can add, if you have a reputation on your corporate identity, then your brand corporate brand identity is also have a contribution on the image, yeah, because reputation is consists of many image of the corporate brand identity. If you want to buy some product and you know that is, for example, made by, I have to mention some corporate, for example, Unilever, then you have a trust and you willing to buy the brand. So it's actually the both corporate identity and corporate brand identity is influence each other, the other way, vice versa. Okay, any other question? You can open your cam and unmute the microphone and ask by yourself. I can see there is a my friend here, Dr. Irwan Yulianto, Dr. Hadi Purnomo, Dr. Nia Sarinastiti.
While we are waiting for the others, I have some observations to you, Dr. Dorien. In online environment, especially we use Facebook, we use many things. When it comes to fake news, if fake news is unethical, we can consider it an unethical practice from the owner of the message, intentionally or unintentionally. How can we deal with it? That is the first that I want you to elaborate more, because when we talk about ethical in online, we cannot avoid of discussing the fake news. And there is another thing that we all know about user-generated content, which is very, very dangerous also for the company, for the corporate, and even for the private individual. So how can we deal with that? Because if it's online, it's go within instant, and you cannot even you have unsent feature. Sometimes you are not fast enough to erase it within just a few seconds. So what is your idea about this? How can we cope with that situation?
Yeah, first I will explain about the fake news.
Yes.
The interesting one is you mentioned intentionally and unintentionally. The difficult one is the intentionally. When we produce fake and we have intentional purpose, it's really difficult, But the thing is that people have make it as a business, fake news as a business.
That is more scary.
Yeah, that's really dark side of the digital communication. I think Dr. Irwan Yulianto have a lot of experience in that area because he was a journalist and the head of the big newspaper in Indonesia. So back to your question, Dr. Jantima, how we deal with the fake news? Usually, when we receive information, we have to be careful and read the information. Is it logic or not? So we have to develop our capacity in understanding the information. For example, there is a meme that write on, according to Newton, according to who is the president of United States, he mentioned about internet. So very quick that we can understand it's impossible. Even though it's a president, the picture of president and the quote of his statement, but he mentioned internet in his period, it's impossible. So we have awareness. Therefore, I would say that the capacity of understanding information is the most important that we have individually developed, especially when we know that some fake news of fake information is produced intentionally. But if it's unintentionally, then we have to how do you say, comment or write a message or whatever it is that make a clarification or ask the sender, what do you mean with your information? It's happened in Indonesia during the demonstration of apa tuh 212 demonstrations. It's come up an issue that arise crisis, very big crisis is about sari roti. Sari roti is a brand of a roti or bread that their gerobak is in this area of the demonstrations, and the corporate communication read a letter mentioned that Sari Roti don't support 212. That's become a boomerang that then attack the company because how do you say? Oh yeah, sorry, I have a message here. So Sari Rotin then attacked by the demonstrants because mentioned about not support the demonstrant. Actually, they can write down something that more I said it in my presentation, more correct term in terms of word choice or tone of the statement. So that's kind of how we deal with fake. And I forget your second question, Jantima. Mbak Nia, you want to say something? Maybe because you write down a message for me, yeah. And your second question,
No,
Dr. Jantima?
I have my observation about user-generated content.
Yeah, sorry, I have to drop because I have to prepare the class that also at 4 p.m. But I have the question written down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nia. Oh yeah, that's another story of the digital dilemma that a company has to taking care of. Yeah. Well, I think Dr. Bahtiar will give more elaboration on the user generated. You think so? But I can give such a big picture of this the digital dilemma on the corporate communications area, because your question is on communication in the corporate area. We have a problem in identity. First is the identity of the leader, personal identity or the identity of the company. And then also identity of a family. When we go to digital communication, this identity become blend. Therefore, it's make it a confusion when we talk about user generate. Which one from the our identity? I can give an example from the case of Bukalapak. Bukalapak is one of a startup in Indonesia. There is a crisis with the hashtag on uninstall Bukalapak because the leader, the CEO, tweet something that mentioned the policy of the president with incorrect data. So actually, it's a person problem, but then people related to the Bukalapak. So hashtag uninstall Bukalapak become viral, and the rate of the company in the Play Store become, like going down really deep, because from 5 to 2 star. So which one? Dr. Bahtiar, you may add something on this discussion.
Okay, Dr. Dorien, I want to bring this discussion to the three different perspectives of school of thought. There are three school of thought talk about the corporate identity. One school of thought say that corporate identity is same. Corporate identity, corporate image, and corporate reputation is the same thing. That is one school of thought. Second school of thought, they say that corporate identity will create a good image. With the good image, will create a good reputation. This idea comes from the corporate marketing scholars. So if you read Balmer, if you read Von Reel, if you read Cornelson book, they believe that corporate identity will create a good image, then the good image will create a good reputation. That's why if you want to have a good corporate brand, if you want to good anything about your company, you must create a good corporate identity first. Corporate identity must come first. With the good corporate identity, you can communicate that identity through the corporate communication activities. Then they will create the image. Image is something like the reflection from the good identity. It's like the mirror. The mirror of identity is an image. So the good image for the long term, they will create a good reputation. So from my perspective, because I did my PhD in marketing, so my school of thought is the second one. I believe that with a good corporate entity, you will create a good image. With good image, you will create a good reputation. So when you talk about the person who part of the identity, because leadership is one of the corporate identity. Like what you said about the Bukalapak CEO, or maybe the Tony Fernandez of Asia, Steve Jobs of Apple, or who else? The Windows, who that guy? That is a, the brand is like part of them. So without Steve Jobs, they have no Apple. Without Asia, without Tony Fernandez, there is no Asia. So if anything affect to that leader, they will affect the identity, and also they will create the image of the organization as well. So that's why in the corporate identity domain or corporate identity construct, the leadership of the company is one of the corporate identity elements that we need to be take care of that. So then we also have many companies without the leadership. So sometimes, we don't know who lead that company, but the company doing well, but we don't know who is lead the company. So it's something for the long term, it's not good for the company, because people will trust or believe on the people behind the scenes, behind the company. So the corporate leader is one of the corporate identity. So as what you say that, like the issue of the Bukalapak, the behavior, anything related to the company, that person will affect to the company. So people will, you cannot run away. Like Tony Fernandez, Steve Jobs, or Bill Gates, they cannot run away from the brand. So Jack Ma of Alibaba, they are part of the brand. So that's what I can, reflect from your question, Dr. Dorien.
Yeah, thank you very much. There is one question from Dr. Nia Sarinastiti in the chat room. Corruption is an ethical issue that seems to be part of a culture in Indonesia. Kickback seems to be the norm. How does your respective country handle such issue? Our anti-corruption commission said that perhaps a death sentence will be the solutions. So would you please give a sharp answer on your experience with your country, Dr. Jantima and Dr. Bahtiar, and then we come to the end of the webinar.
Okay. I straight away to reflect to this question. I think this is not the ethical issue. This is a crime issue. A social.
Yeah, I agree.
This is not ethical issue anymore. There is another section. So KPK. In Malaysia, we have SPRM, Suruhanjaya Pencegahan Rasuah Malaysia. So they're doing well in terms of to control the corruption issues. But when we look at the system, people, especially like me, the layman like us, still not satisfied with the action taken by that agency. So I think the same issue also in Thailand and Indonesia. So we have that agency to control the corruption issues, but we think that their action is not enough. So that's what I can say to reflect to this question.
Thank you. How about you, Dr. Jantima?
I agree with Professor Bahtiar that it's not ethical issue. It's a crime. It's committing the crimes for the nations. So I think I cannot say that we don't have a corruption. We are on a very in the corruption index. We are also high in corruption index. So as it's not, if we want to relate it to the ethics, it means that the person who commit the corrupt the system, or intentionally or unintentionally, you have to say. But the problem that we are talking is the intentional, right? So I think we have to, I cannot say that we can educate them not to corrupt. It's in the flesh and blood. If you are, the people who don't corrupt is that, I don't know, maybe I am negative approach. They don't have a chance to do it. Given a chance, they will do it. So this is human. And how can we eliminate the corruptions? I have no idea too. Because it's alive, really. Because there are two sides of human, good and bad. Corruption is the bad side of humans. It depends if you have a chance or not. And if you have high moral, maybe you can resist the temptation of the corruption. So that is my point of view. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, that's also happened in Indonesia. We also in the index of corruption, and somehow people happy to see news when someone get caught by the committee that they are corrupt. But what the committee try to do in the to prevent, like their activities to prevent corruption with the like, for example, education movie to teenagers, or maybe kindergarten kids, they don't pay attention on it. People pay attention on who get caught because of corruption. So it's kind of, like we need social participations in this corruption issues. Because I have the experience that people outside Indonesia from foreign country, when we have a deal with some fund for research, for example, also make us aware that we have to be careful in the financial report. He said, not because I don't trust you, it's just because your country very famous with corruption. so it's a stigma, become a stigma. Therefore, we as a society of this country has to participate in dealing with these corruption issues. So just before we close, Dr. Ilwan Yulianto, you want to give a statement? Still muted?
Yeah. Thank you. I really enjoyed the webinar, even though I was a bit late. Yeah, actually, I'm not specialized on corporate communication or reputation communication and so on, but dealing with the hoax or disinformation. I believe that we have to counter it with the contra narrations. So if not, then the disinformation or hoax are perceived as true things, and the lie or the big lie becomes a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Irwan. I'm agree with you because if lies we tell lies more and more and more, then it's become something true. We believe in it, so we have to work together, collaborate to strike back to this fake and hoax. And for the closing statement, I would like to invite Bapak Adri Said from the International Office of Atma Jaya Catholic University of Indonesia to give this closing statement. Time is yours, Dr. Adri.
Thank you very much, Bu Dorien, Dr. Dorien, for the opportunity to close this incredible webinar session. Well, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude for Professor Jantima from UTCC, University of the Thai Chamber of Commerce, and also Prof. Bahtiar from University Utara Malaysia for their sharing and also the participation in this webinar, as well as, of course, Dr. Dorien and also the team for organizing this seminar. For me personally, this webinar is it's a reminder, it's an eye opener for us to remember that there is ethics in communicating. We all live in the digital era right now with multifaceted space where we communicate with each other. Now that connectivity is easy, communication is becoming a powerful tool, but also at the same time, it becomes a noose, a rope that may trap us by using what we are saying actually in terms of communication. That's why the value and kind of identity that we are representing, either we represent ourselves as a person or a company in terms of the corporate communication, for example, or right now we are actually having a multinational webinar. It also represents our country. When I speak, I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for also Atma Jaya Catholic University of Indonesia. I'm speaking for Indonesia, and the same time as well for all the professors that are speaking here as well. So I hope that we can gain something valuable from this session. This webinar also shows us another valuable point, that this pandemic, it cannot stop us from communicating. It cannot stop us from collaborating and to convey great things to the world. Right now, we have 3 countries working together. Right? We have people from Indonesia, we have people from Thailand, we have people from Malaysia sharing something. So what can stop us from working with more? Maybe right now only 3. In the next session, maybe we'll have 5 countries. Maybe in the next session, we will have 10 countries working together on a seminar. This pandemic may close the door of physical interaction. Of course, I cannot go to Malaysia. I cannot go to Thailand as well. But right now, at the same time, this pandemic forces us to open the windows to many alternatives of working together, especially through online means. That's why I am very optimistic that this webinar, of course, this is not the first, and I'm very optimistic that this will not be the last of us working together, either through online means or maybe after the pandemic passes, through, of course, offline as well. And we from Atma Jaya Catholic University of Indonesia, we hope to work together more, collaborate more, communicate more. The pandemic should not stop us, but the disruption should be seen as opportunities to open all the alternatives to collaborate and communicate. And of course, as mentioned all the time in this webinar, to do it with appropriate ethics. We hope to see you more in other sessions, and we'd love to communicate with you. I saw lots of greetings actually in the start of the webinar. So let this session, this webinar be the window that closes the gap between us, and Atma Jaya Catholic University of Indonesia is looking forward to communicating and collaborating with you in the future. Thank you very much. Back to you, Bu Dorien.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adre Said. It is an honor for us. Dr. Eko Widodo is still here, our dean. Would you please give a short remarks, Dr. Eko Widodo?
Okay, thank you, all of you, all of the participants. It's said by Andre Saif before that it's the window of opportunity to more collaborated, to more communication, to more anything possible in the future. Thank you for all of you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eko Widodo. So we come to the closing ceremony. As always, please open your camera. We will take a picture for documentation. Oh yeah, I have to mention Bapak Embu, Henriques Are Embu is my partner who hosting this webinar. Pak Hadi Purnama, Pak Sapriyadi Rosa, everybody that I know. Thank you for coming, Ibu Natalia. Everybody, I would like to invite to open your camera and we'll have a picture together. Okay, Mbak Dian and Alicia and Karina, would you please help us to take this picture?
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Again, thank you very much, Professor Bahtiar Mohamad, Professor Jantima, Dr. Adre, Dr. Eko Widodo, and all participants. And see you in the next webinar. Stay healthy and stay safe.